You mentioned that aid stalled in the Congress. What are the real-world implications of that? Well, on the ground in Ukraine, Russian forces have captured a key city in the eastern part of Ukraine, marking Russia's largest gain on the battlefield in 9 months, as Ukraine's military now faces a critical shortage of ammunition. Joining us now from eastern Ukraine is NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel. Richard, what's the latest there?
So I was just talking to soldiers out here in eastern Ukraine a few minutes ago, and they were telling me that the shortages of ammunition are now so extreme that they're counting bullets. They are rationing their artillery rounds. They're rationing their regular ammunition that they put into their rifles. They still have enough drones, they say, because they have a local manufacturing base. They're using, in some cases, 3D printers to make drones. But they are not in a position right now to launch any new offensives, and they are not really in a position to hold the line. We saw the loss of Avdiivka, which is not very far from here, out in eastern Ukraine, over the weekend, and that was a terrible blow for the Ukrainian military, because the Ukrainian military had been holding on to this small city for many years. It had been a contested area, but as they were overwhelmed, as they were outmanned, as they were outgunned, the government decided that holding it simply wasn't worth it. And as we've seen on the other side, as we've seen with the Russians, once you start losing territory and once you start having to go on the back foot and retreat, you can lose territory quite quickly. It can cleave off a little bit like glaciers off the side of a mountain. It doesn't necessarily just go one little town and then stop. So right now you have a situation where Ukrainian forces out here in the east are in retreat. And the concern is, can they stop that? Can they stop this wound before it spreads and they lose a significant amount of territory? And the way they do that, soldiers here tell me the only way to do that is to urgently get more weapons, more supplies, particularly from the United States. We've heard that time and time again, but we're seeing it now out here in the East. It's not theoretical anymore.
Yeah, it's being felt, and that's why you hear President Zelensky desperately asking the United States and this Congress to get some aid in their direction. Richard, you've got some new reporting about renewed concerns about a nuclear power plant people may remember from earlier in the war in Zaporizhia. That's the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. What are the new concerns there?
So, major concerns. I'm not sure if you saw the story we had on Nightly News last night. Yeah. It was about the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. So the Zaporizhia plant, the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, has 6 uranium reactors, and the plant was taken over in the early weeks of the war by Russian forces. So Russian forces captured the plant, they took over the facility, they captured the personnel inside, and Ukrainian forces were able to hold on to the opposite bank of the Dnieper River. So the plant is right on the front line, with Ukrainian forces on one side of the river and Russian forces on the other side of the river. And the IAEA, and I spoke to the Director General, is deeply concerned about this facility. One, because it's right on the front line. Two, the knock-on effect of the war is having a tremendous impact on the plant. Now, the plant is in a semi-shut-down state right now, so it is in a kind of a safe mode, but it still requires outside electricity. And there are 4 electrical lines leading into the plant. And Ukrainian officials, including the former director of the plant, told me that 3 of those 4 external power lines, which are essential for cooling and keeping the reactors stable, are not working. And the 4th, the final line, is faulty. So there have been 8 blackouts at this plant recently, the last one just a few months ago in December. And the IAEA considers this plant the most dangerous nuclear facility in the world. Ukrainians are describing it as a ticking time bomb. And they say that if there were to be another blackout and the diesel generators, which luckily did kick in, the final backup, don't kick in, then you could get a meltdown along the lines of Fukushima, contaminating large parts of Ukraine and beyond, and spreading out into the region, contaminating crops, livestock, and potentially killing and making people, tens of thousands of people, either sick or killing them directly.
A critical situation. NBC's Richard Engel with great reporting from eastern Ukraine this morning. Richard, thanks so much. Joe, Richard said something a few minutes ago. This is no longer theoretical. All these months of holding up this aid in the United States Congress is showing itself now on the battlefield. And as Richard said, Ukraine is in retreat in places it thought it had captured and was going to hold on to. Europe is doing its part. Just this morning, Sweden passed through $682 million more. They're trying to make up and fill that hole left by the United States, but the situation is critical.
Same thing happening from Japan. Other American allies are stepping forward. You know, the hypocrisy of these Trumpers who always bitch and moan about other countries not doing their fair share, not doing their part. Right now, it's Donald Trump and Mike Johnson who are aiding and assisting. Right now, those two people are Vladimir Putin's best friends, not only in the United States, but across the world, because those two people are what stands between Congress passing aid and not passing aid to help the Ukrainian people push back on a Russian invasion that's just unleashed one human rights violation after another. This is, you know, Willie, you had said this before, that you have people on actually all sides of the ideological spectrum trying to push back against the madness, this pro-Putin madness of Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. Here's Mark Levin, very popular, very conservative radio host who doesn't agree with what we say often. But Mark wrote this: Russia is gaining on Ukraine, which is running out of certain crucial weaponry and having to pull back from areas it had controlled, and faces losing the war Russia started. Is that okay with everyone? Ukraine is a relatively small country without the capacity for a large industrial economy in which it can build the needed weapons. This, as you were just saying, Willie, is not theoretical. This is not theoretical. This is reality. NATO countries border Ukraine, and if Putin moves on any of them, then what? He has said in the past he is eyeing Poland, Romania, and the Balkan states. This is a grave situation. How grave is the situation? It's grave for Ukraine. It's grave for freedom in Europe. It's grave because we fought a Cold War for 42 years. For 42 years. From Harry Truman to JFK to Ronald Reagan to Zbigniew Brzezinski to Madeleine Albright to Colin Powell, you name it. You name it. Republicans and Scoop Jackson, Republicans and Sam Nunn, Republicans and Democrats alike dedicated, devoted their lives to freeing the lives of Europeans enslaved by Russia, by Soviet Russia. And here we are. Here we are. We have a guy who wants to be president again, and his pathetic little speaker, who are actually doing Vladimir Putin's bidding. And Gene Robinson, in Putin, you have someone who has said the greatest tragedy of the 20th century was America's victory in the Cold War, the collapse of the Soviet Union, the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the freeing of tens of millions of Europeans, right? And by the way, Ronald Reagan, a hero in Central and Eastern Europe, the same Reagan that talked about freedom in Europe is the same Reagan that talks about the importance of immigration, the same Reagan that Donald Trump does violence to his legacy every single day he opens his mouth. But, Gene, there is Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, who was the one leader in Europe, in the EU, that is on Russia's side. And then you have Donald Trump. We've been warning about it for years. But there is a straight line from Trump to Orban, who hates the West, to Vladimir Putin. And right now, they're lining up to help with the spread of tyranny. And as Levin said, this is not theoretical. This is happening right now.